you have, feel free to bring those up as well.
And just so you all know, I just started recording this because I just remembered, so that we'll have this topic up on the website if we don't want to revisit it, or for those who didn't join us today can hear what we've talked about instead of notes. I suppose I could start to address the training part. So I build that into my contracts when it comes to full site designs, or just developing a site, so that the client can learn to do certain things that they're responsible for. I kind of, during the, when I first get them, I try to figure out if they're going to want me to do all the work or if they're going to do some things. And then during the development process, I make notes about what things that they're going to be doing and how they need to do it. Sometimes I record short little videos for them while I'm doing things, just so I'm not spending a bunch of time at the end after everything's done trying to compile all of these little tutorials for them. There's different ways you can upload these videos to their website so they can see them. You can either put it in their regular WordPress admin area. There's a couple plugins that can do it, or you can create a custom post type to do it, or you can do like a subdomain that's like training their domain.com, so they can just go there and make it private so it's only usable for them. Basic training that I do is basically WordPress 101, just like what's a page, what's a post, kind of that kind of thing. And then site-specific things like I have this one client I'm doing right now. They're a construction company, and so they have projects and they have galleries. So they're two separate things, so they have to be trained to do one and the other. One's a custom post type and one's just a regular post using a Divi gallery. So I'll train them on how to do those things. And I do that after launch.
How deep do you go into, like, if you're using Divi, like how deep do you, like, are you only just like, you're just focused on the task they need to do?
Yes.
Okay. So like,
I don't teach them how to build the pages.
Okay.
They're going to be like, no, I want control over everything and I want to be able to make new pages. I'll make a template and show them how to edit the template, but I don't show them how to use the builder.
Okay.
Capacity.
Because I've inherited a site that uses WP Bakery, and like I'm having the hardest time trying to figure out how to make a page. Like it took me a really long time to
I'm so sorry.
And I'm like, I don't get how people hand this off. Like, how do you hand this off to a client and tell them, okay, like go make pages now? Like, I just don't, I'm baffled by that. But
yeah, WP Bakery is kind of a beast. But yeah, as far as page builders go, it's like, I think that people think they're super easy to use, and some of them are, but it really depends on the person who's doing it. Because not everybody can use like Microsoft Word, for instance. I mean, it's accessible to everybody, but some people just don't get it. And it's the same thing with page builders. If you're not used to something, and I kind of think that's why a lot of people have issues with Gutenberg, because it's so different than what WordPress has been. So now the block editor, people are like, what is this? It's so different than any other builder, even though it is fundamentally a page builder.
Yeah, it's so much easier than at least WP Bakery. I can vouch for that.
Oh yes.
I'm working on a site right now that I am going to be heavily relying on the Gutenberg blocks. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering, like, I'm trying to think about what the training's going to look like for my client. Like,
yeah, I think you'd really just not engage what they're going to want to be able to do.
Yeah.
And then take notes, record yourself doing stuff, so that you're able to communicate to them how to do it. Because like I had one client who had a section where she had videos that she needed to upload. And so I created the back end. So all she had to do was add a link to YouTube.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Where her videos were.
Yeah.
So I just showed her where to put that link and how to save the page, and then everything was fine. So if that's all they need to do, that's what you train them on.
Yeah.
So you just really have to gauge what it is they're going to be doing. And sometimes if it's slightly more complicated, then they just go, you know what, maybe we just need to do that maintenance contract. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have clients that just don't want anything to do with the admin, and that's where you have a care package that just takes care of content too?
I have, like, I charge them an hourly rate for those things. My care package is just like updates and ensuring that if the website goes down, I'm on top of it, getting it back up and that kind of thing. As far as actual content updates, they purchase support hours, and we use those to do that work.
Okay.
Do you have like a hourly package you put together? Like you can buy them in 4-hour packs or 5-hour packs, or you just,
No.
catch as catch can, and whatever they want to do, you do?
Yeah, I have a form, I call it a work order, that they submit to me, and I send them back, this is how long it's going to take. They approve the amount of hours. Because they're maintenance clients, I don't bill them ahead of time. I bill them at the end of the month.
Right.
For whatever work they put through their work orders.
Right. Yeah, I have a maintenance client that I mainly just do security updates. I go through the word fence logs and things like that. It's pretty minimal. It's not a lot, and it's just 15, 20 minutes a week. But I'm also, in the loop. If anything happens, I get the email, the SMS or whatever, the site's down or it's being attacked or whatever, and then I can go, and this is a site that I had to clean because it was hacked originally. So I just sit in the background and do it.
Yeah, for those I have like packages that they either do, it's an hourly or it's a monthly rate, but they either pay monthly, quarterly, or yearly.
Yeah, I'm doing quarterly right now. The larger client I have, the large client I have, he just wants to go. He was on a retainer where I billed him at the beginning of the month, and that covered X number of hours. And we just kept raising the retainer because he didn't want any surprises. And now he's decided, well, rightfully, when half of his advertising fled 2 months ago, that he wanted to go hourly. So we're just doing it hourly.
Yeah.
But I do so much more for him than I would for anyone else. So it's like I write posts for his readers to read about security. I just do a lot of things, and so he just pays my hourly rate. Doesn't complain.
How about you, Cami? What do you do as far as training goes?
So like you, it's built into my contract. If they get one training session after the website launches, any additional ones, my hourly rate applies. But I'm not a real big stickler on that. So they can swing back. So we'll schedule, like I've done a couple this week, we do it on Zoom. I share my screen and I just walk them through the dashboard. I pay for WP 101 videos. And I also pay for it's a video user manual, which is from the WP Elevation guys. So the reason I have two is because I like different things about them. And the video user manual one has gravity forms and WP 101 doesn't. They both have Beaver Builder, which is how I build my site. So I leave those they're right in the installation, and during my own training, I show them how to access those videos. So that's been really helpful and cut back on me having to deal with little things, right? They can find the answer there. When a client needs to do, like, let's say it's a architect and they want to know how to upload their own portfolios. I will record on Loom me doing their portfolio upload, do that first one for them, and then I send them a training video on Loom. I probably used Loom like 20 times a week. Just every time a client has a question and they don't know how to do something, I record it and I send them that video. So that saves me a ton of time. And I really am training them to do anything they want to do. But my initial training is basically editing their text, adding a picture, doing a blog post. And then I tell, Beaver Builder is so overwhelming, right? And I'm like, you don't want to know how, you don't want to get in the weeds of templates and, a lot of stuff that's in there. So I start them out kind of in baby steps. But that's kind of how I do it in terms of just like offboarding them. I did the profitable project plan training with Jennifer Bourne, and I've got a 14-day email sequence. I ask them for a testimonial that I never put on my website because I'm too busy. And, help them set up a Gravatar. It's, I give a free month of care plan. So I send a bunch of info about that. I make a user manual, which I admin bar. I forget where I got that idea and started it with, but it's kind of daunting at the very end, I have to say, but they seem to appreciate it. For me, it's daunting. For them, they seem to like it. So
just like a documentation user manual?
Yeah, it's like a PDF, and I don't actually put their passwords on it because of privacy concerns, but how many of your clients are like, I don't know where my domain name is.
Yeah.
I don't know where my hosting is. I don't know who does my email. And for me, it's like, it prevents, everything I do is to prevent them from asking me a million questions later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is a pretty helpful step, but I have to say, sometimes I ask myself when I'm doing it, why am I doing this? This takes forever. But I do think in the long run, it'll pay off.
Yeah. I do that too. And I've actually on a couple projects, I've had staff turnover. And so then they come on board and I can just point them to the documentation.
It does
and
really help with that.
That was helpful. Yeah.
But then, there's always those clients that you send it to. And
they don't read it.
And then they're like, who does my email? Can you help? And it's like, not me. I put his name on that form. So, but yeah, I loom between Loom and paying for those plugins. So I just pay for it myself. I don't charge my clients. I just consider it cost of business. But it has been super helpful.
Yeah, that's good to know. Cause I've been looking at WP 101 cause they do also have a Gutenberg track on there.
They do. I've been using them for years, and I'm grandfathered in for pricing, cool. Thank goodness. But I think the way it's installed into the WordPress installation is great. I know other people will do the more online class presentation for their clients. I think Jennifer Bourne does that, but I like the plugin because the whole point of it for me is to eliminate people asking me questions. Yeah. And when they get into their WordPress installation, that's when they feel lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're short. They're not, 6 minutes or less. They're not big, long trainings. So if you want to just try it, I'll share my info with you and you can install it on your own and just give it a try. If you want to see what their trainings are for Gutenberg.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So shoot me an email.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, and I just went to the website, and lifetime access is only $99.
Yeah,
That's not for the plugin.
Oh, the plugin's more?
The plugin's totally different than that. So that's like a one-person training. So you would buy that $199 lifetime access, I think, for I don't know that you can share that with your clients, but it's WP101plugin.com is the website.
Yeah, I just found that one. and I'll put that link. I'm saving a chat, so if we have any links, we can put those in the chat, and I'll upload that to the website, to WPCL
Perfect.
as well. So pricing on that,
It is,
small business is $249 a year.
it is 30% off for the life of your subscription, though, currently.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
So
think I pay like
that's-
$190.
Yeah, that's not
Annually?
bad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look. Yeah, I'm gonna.
But it's I really like their, like I said, I'd be happy for you to just cruise through it and see what you think, because I think the quality of their video is incredible.
Cool.
And it gives you the ability to, like, so let's say a client leaves me, and I've never done this, but if I wanted to turn it off on their website and they're no longer my client, I can log into that and I can turn them off. So if, you know, if they hired another designer, I don't know how, I don't think you can see the key or anything, but let's say somebody tried to pirate me, I could see it happening.
Yeah.
You know, so
Cool.
they have a lot of control on the back end like that too.
Cool.
Hey, Cami, I noticed you said you use Video User Manual as well. Those are the people that are behind.
WP Elevation.
Yeah, and they also make the white label.
Yes, CMS.
Right. Do any of you use that to create sort of a template or a training system or a custom dashboard?
I do.
Yeah, Mark was talking about what he was doing with advanced custom fields. And I wanted to know if any of you guys were using the white label CMS to do that. It looked interesting. So.
All I do is put some of my branding. So when they log in, it's your Webcami website. And then I feed my own blog into the dashboard. And I kind of turn off a lot of the normal dashboard things that would scare them. Right? And so, and then I have like a contact block that says what my hours are. You know, it links to a few blog posts that are related to just like understanding your website and stuff like that. And anyway, it's pretty cool. I don't spend a ton of time on it, and it's kind of clunky because you have to set up every single client.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of having, like, it would be cool if there was a master and you just installed it. But I link back all the logos to my own website, not upload them to theirs, and a few things like that. So it's okay, but I change my hours sometimes, and it's like, oh, you know, I
Right. Yeah.
can't even face going through changing it, all of that. Like in the future, I might just like see website for hours. And that way it's not on each individual one. So I kind of wish they had a master setting or something.
Yeah, or you could manage it from a dashboard or something.
Yeah, and you
That
can't.
would be nice.
Yeah.
Or
It's
can
free.
Can you link to something out? I mean, I haven't really used it. Can you put HTML in there and just link to data that's outside of the website? So you could have your hours.
I could. Yeah, I could link out. I should do that.
But then you have to go back and change all of them that you've already done. So.
Right. But I guess you should just I should bite the bullet and just do it, you know.
Hey, Cami, did you say that you dropped them in a 14-day email sequence?
Yeah, I sort of do it a little more manually. I use Mixmax. So Mixmax allows me to pre-schedule emails in my own Gmail account. So yeah, but the profitable project plan training sort of, I mean, I reworded everything, but gave me the steps to take. So like, congratulations, your website's done. Email number 2, I'm going to be emailing you more. Email number 3, a free month of care, and here's what you get. Email by like number 5, I'm like, can you send me a testimonial? You know, that kind of thing, all the way through to like, you know, remember I'm here for you. See you later. So they're short for the most part.
Okay. So how many people do you do that with instead of, well, that's not really the question. As opposed to sending them an email that says goodbye, how do you get them to sign on to a maintenance contract that extends that free 1 month
Oh, that
to
comes,
a more permanent thing?
so when they get their first monthly report, then I start with, here's your report. Do you want to stay, you know, so even though I've said goodbye, I'm really saying goodbye to the design process.
Okay.
There. Like your site's launched, you're on, you know, we're good, you know, we're paid, everything's good. And then they'll hear from me after the free month of care, which may be 6 weeks, depending on when I finish their website. Like if I finish their website on the 20th of the month, I'll run that free through the end of, so they have a full month's report. Yeah, and I'm using Managed WP for that. And so anyway, they get that, when I send that report to them, I send them an email saying, here's your report and here's your, you know, brief offer to buy in for a reduced rate, and you have 2 weeks to decide. So most of them sign up. I've only had like, this year, I've not had one person pass.
You know, sorry, Clay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just wondering if you ever sell the maintenance package before the project starts too, or if it's always kind of from the result of the trailing goodbye.
Well, they don't know it, but I'm paying for it because I put it in there and back up my mock-up every day. So when a project runs long, you know, I kind of just, that's for me. So I talk about it, and it's in my contract, and it's part of my proposal process to discuss it. But they don't sign. I figured out long ago that if I put the bill for a free month or a 2, let's say if it runs, that is a small investment in getting them to sign up forever. Mm-hmm. And that income is carrying me right now because the incoming leads are not coming in as strongly, you know. But you know, I get it 1 or 2 a month. But it's been, I haven't signed a new client since the end of March, which is not usual. But the care plan is sustaining, so it just makes me focused on that more. It's so important.
Yeah.
Your automation routine reminded me of a talk that Jocelyn Mozak gave at WordCamp. And
it's very much, yeah, she's a good friend of mine. It's very much from that. And she also did profitable project plan training.
Profitable project plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to write that down.
It's a good one.
I found her talk to be amazing. Just when she was talking about the level of automation that she had, and it turned on so many lights. So
yeah, I was at that WordCamp too. I heard her do that one. Yeah. Was that 2018?
Yes.
Yeah.
I heard her talk just the other day at WordCamp Kent online.
Oh.
She's gonna speak at WordCamp EU this weekend.
Is she?
Oh.
Yeah. Cool. Are any of you going to that?
Is it free?
It's free.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I can go to WordCamp Europe.
Yes, for free. I'm totally excited. I'm working the GoDaddy booth 2 shifts. So I'll be there tomorrow morning from 8 to 9 and Saturday from 9 to 10.
I might check it out if I can remember. Or if I'm not playing my Sims too much.
I'm totally stoked. I sort of feel like I should get a passport stamp or something.
Trying to think of what else was in that topic. Training.
When you guys send out care packages, do you send out it as like a kind of an addendum to the original contract or a separate thing? Or do you just let the kind of the terminology in the original contract cover
Oh, I have a separate maintenance contract.
Yeah, I do too.
So they signed a separate agreement for that. They can indicate interest if it's a full site design. If that project, I tell them about it at the beginning. I reiterate it, ask them again at the end if they haven't already expressed that they want to do it. But then I send them a separate agreement for that because it has different terms than the web design project.
I have one horrifying 9-page contract that I use for everything that includes the project, any follow-up maintenance, and in the follow-up maintenance, I mention, WordPress updates. And I don't get into the weeds on the different packages or anything. It's just kind of a general statement. And then, but I bill it all separately. So their website's done, I bill for the website. Then I set up a recurring invoice in FreshBooks. And set up the subscription in Stripe or in PayPal, however they want to do it. But I just cover it as a maintenance as part of my overall service contract.
How many here use QuickBooks?
I started using QuickBooks.
I use QuickBooks and FreshBooks. Is that horrible?
Yeah.
Like I can't get out of FreshBooks because I've been using it since 2011.
Yeah.
And the thought of transferring everything is horrifying, but I don't use it for the banking part. I just use it for invoices and estimates. And then QuickBooks, I run my bank account through, so I have something to print for my accountant.
Yeah, right. I do something similar. I have Dubsado I use for all my contracts and all of my intake forms and questionnaires and all that stuff. But their invoicing and their accounting part is really elementary. So I have QuickBooks instead so that I can pull data from my bank account because I really hate manually adding transactions. Really hate that.
That's totally my deal too.
Yeah, I use QuickBooks. I actually use it for just about everything. I use the invoicing out of there as well, and I have a separate time tracking application that I use. So it has invoicing in it, but it's kind of basic.
Yeah. Yeah, Dubsado invoicing is kind of basic as well, but I can just hit the timer in there and then apply it to the invoice, and the contract itself, the maintenance or the proposals will build out an invoice for me based on what the client selects. So it makes it much easier to do it in just that one place. Clay?
Oh, one thing I was running into with QuickBooks, I have this self-employed one, and it doesn't seem to have recurring payments, which hasn't been a problem until now. I'm starting to do care packages, and I'm like, oh, I need that. I'm thinking about switching to FreshBooks because I noticed that it looks like that has it. But do you guys just do you upgrade your QuickBooks account to small business or something, or maybe I missed it on the self-employed one.
I'll look. I think that the small business plan might have it.
Okay.
I'm old school. I buy the desktop version, so.
Oh, okay.
And I've owned QuickBooks in one form or another for, I don't know, 20 years. So I just keep paying the man every year. Like, if you want an upgrade, go great. It's the same price as a new copy. Here you go. Anything, recurring invoices and things like that, I would probably just set those up. My clients like to pay me with a check, so I actually just physically send them an invoice physically email them an invoice, and then I get a check. They don't want to pay by credit card, so I don't know why, but I would just use Stripe for that if that was going to be the issue. So.
Yeah, Cami, how do you handle that? Do you not allow them to pay by check or for the recurring payment?
Everybody used to pay me by check, and with a monthly month-to-month payment, they can't give me a check anymore. I just don't have time. So I started just asking for them to use PayPal. And I would say 75% of my clients do that. You know, I have a few like, and I make exceptions for big companies, like for me, big companies, right? So like if an architectural firm wants to have their accounting department cut me a check every month, that's cool. I'll totally do that as long as it's a large amount. I won't do that for like a care plan, but for my installment payments, I do installment payments for all new projects now. And but I just encourage people not to use checks, because I looked at FreshBooks has this great thing of telling you how long it takes people to pay you. And the people that pay me online pay me faster than the people who write checks.
Yeah.
And honestly, just in today's world, is our entire interface with our customers is not going to be in person like it used to be for a long time. And so I'm just so happy that I have this, I have control of my cash flow in a much better way than I do. When they send me a check, I have no control. And if I've got a payment set up for them, I've got control. So, but just asking, I don't really like to say no to customers.
Yeah.
I try to make things work for them. But just putting my like wishes out there really made a difference. You know, like in the email that has the invoice, it's PayPal is the preferred method of payment, and here's a link to pay me with PayPal. And then at the very bottom, it says checks are still accepted. Wah, wah.
Do any of you use Square? Square has a really great invoicing system, and they have recurring payments, and they have ways to track time. They have just a whole bunch of stuff in there. A friend of mine uses it at his chiropractic clinic, and I helped him set it up. You can also send reminders off if people haven't paid. You can have that do automatically. So, no.
I use Square. No.
Yeah, I put a link to how to do the automatic or the reoccurring payments in QuickBooks in the chat for you.
Okay.
But as far as Stripe, Square, I've not used Square except for somebody who needed appointments, a client who needed to be able to have their people book appointments, and they wanted to do it through Square. So I set that up. But I kind of feel like Square, in my mind, is more for somebody who has in-person
Point of
sale than for strictly online sales. I think it's got more things than you need, and you pay more for that than if, say, like I use Stripe.
Well, I don't think it integrates as well with WordPress either. So, you know, as we were building out our own systems, Stripe just seems to be so much cleaner and easier to integrate.
And I think it's because it's the whole point of sale.
Right? Yeah.
Dead air. I'm trying to think. I think there was something else on this topic that we were thinking of. So, Cami, you touched on how you have the little document for them, the user manual, I think you called it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you don't furnish the logins, credentials, and things through that. How do you, or do you send those to them at all? Or, because that's a thing I have with some of the maintenance clients that I have through my subcontract with Mantango, because people will come on board and they'll be like, I don't know, my last developer had these things. And to me, that is like a huge flag on how the developer actually treats their clients. I had one law firm in New York who didn't realize her website was hosted by them.
Oh, that happens.
Didn't realize that
all
her
the
domain was owned by them.
Right.
And her website literally went down. The only reason we had it is because we had her in Managed WP, so we had a backup of the website, and we're able to get it back up online fairly quickly. I'm just wondering if everybody chimes in on this. How do you deal with getting your clients their information so that if for whatever reason they're unable to get a hold of you, they still have possession of their website? Because in my contract, I make it clear that once I finish the website, that the website is owned by them.
Right.
And so I feel like they should have the access, even if they don't use it.
When I set them up with their login, they get an email and they're able to create and set their password. And I make sure I tell them I can never see their password. And in my training, I don't know how many times you guys get this, but I get emails all the time. I lost my password. Can you send it to me? And it's like, yeah, no, I can't see it. There's a you forgot your password link. When you log in, click that. And but I will, in the exchange and design phase, what I do is tell the client to put if they're sending me credentials, I use Lastpass, they can send it to me that way. But if they can't, I have them put it in a text file and attach it to an email. So it isn't in the email, it's just an attachment. And then I tell them to delete that email after they send me the email, right? In terms of or they can text me their password. Send me your username in an email and text me your password. So everything's kind of not going in directly to an email that could get hacked or easily. I would say most of the time it's send it here, send the password, that kind of thing. But when I provide that document to them, I don't want to be the one who put their passwords in a document that got hacked. So I literally make it like a table. And in the above it where it says, here's your usernames, and you can write your passwords in here, right? And keep this document. And I just kind of do that because I'm paranoid. But I have all their passwords for everything, and I store everything in Lastpass. So once I get it, I store it.
I use 1Password for all my passwords. I don't know if I can share them out, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, Lastpass has a sharing feature. Even if they don't have an account, I believe they can't send to me things, but I can send them things I can send to them and they can access it.
I was working with a vendor, newspaper, the theme vendor, and they said, use this one-time secret website. And I'd never used it before. So I went in and I used that. And that's a way you can go in and you can write a password in, and it encrypts it when you do that. You can give them a passphrase to get into it so that they, you can send them the link, and then they need the link and the pass, you can make the passphrase simple, but then you can actually put a real password in there, and it's difficult to hack.
Can you share that link? Because I know I've heard of this and I think I've seen it before, but I completely forgot. I would love to have that. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, one-time secret.
Yeah, I actually use that too. I used to use something else, but they got acquired by Lastpass. This is open source, and you can actually white label it. You can download the software and install it on your own server.
Yeah.
I don't, but you can.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. No, I use that a lot. For some reason, some people have issues with it because you have to put you get a link and you send them the link.
Yeah.
Right.
And then they forward that to somebody else. And then somebody else opens it, and then they can't get to it because it can only be opened one time.
Right.
That's
the whole idea behind it. So there is that caveat, but it does work really well for sharing information.
Cool. Yeah, I in that document I recommend everyone sign up for Lastpass or, any password keeper at all. I don't know how I lived without one. I really don't. I've got over 500 passwords, and anyway.
Yeah, I do that as well.
I just wrote a blog post about people's there's a group out of Panama that are trying to hack my clients' Yahoo email users. And in the middle of that, I put in a blurb for 1Password. Dashlane is another good one that people talk about. I haven't used it, but.
Yeah, I used Dashlane for a while, but then they kept not saving my passwords because there's like a limit on their free account. But you don't know that they're not saving them until you try to use it again. It was very annoying. So I switched to Lastpass. So I think I actually have a paid account for Lastpass now.
Yeah, I pay $60 a year to 1Password, and I can get 5 users and as many devices as I want. It's just such a small amount of money to have that level of security. It's just.
Yeah, I think I pay $39 a year.
Yeah.
NASA for
LastPass. LastPass looks good, but when they had that security breach a few years ago, the way they dealt with the security breach was not up to my standards, and I know they've fixed it since then, and they talk about how great they are and everyone loves them, but nope. But their free version is good, so.
Yeah.
I've had 3 clients in the last 3 months have their domain expired because they're like, oh yeah, we got those emails, we just ignored them.
Yeah, and I'm shocked at the amount of spam and phishing that's going on for all of those companies. Like every day a new client's like, I got this from GoDaddy, and I've told them now, send it to me. You know, don't click on anything, and you roll over it. It's totally not. The from's wrong. Anyway, a lot of that going on.
Do any of you use any sort of well, one of my clients uses ActiveCampaign, and with ActiveCampaign, you can set up automations. So you could set up an automation for a client to remind them to go in and renew their domain. And you can set it up so that the email comes from you, from your system. I mean, for that matter, you could probably just do a simple calendar event and invite them to it so that they get a reminder after. I mean, some people don't even use calendars. What am I saying?
No, that's a really good idea. So like you could send a reminder for their domains expiring, because they give you all this information, and as long as, well, there's certain accounts that they can give you levels that are not, but most of the time people are like, I don't know how to set up a new user, here's mine. And so you get all the billing information. So I have this issue with SiteGround. I love SiteGround's customer service. They're very helpful, but the way they do their email system, so like they've recently, 6 months, migrated all of their websites from one service host to another.
Right.
And they sent emails to the clients, to all their subscribers, saying you need to update your IP address. My problem is I had probably half the people that I support not send me that email.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize it was happening until somebody's website went offline. And the first thing I did was log into SiteGround and went, oh, your IP address needs to be changed. And I change it. So we can't get through those, but if you get into the system and you see that their services are going to expire or something like that, you can make notes of that information and then set up reminders to send emails to your clients.
Yeah, so how I got around that was I set up, one of my clients uses Gmail for their corporate email, which is pretty common. It's $60 a year per user. We were using SiteGround at one point. We weren't using SiteGround's email. But if you do that, you can set up an email list. In Google, you have to set up a new email, you group an email, and then you add all the users to the group. So I set up role-based emails, and then I have all of the account information go to that role email, so I get copied on all of it. So I see what they send and where, that, so that should work. I'm not sure if it's going to work on SiteGround or not, but it works on everything else. So it's just an email group that goes out, and of course it goes to the owner of the site at yourdomain.com, but it also goes to me at sitebastion.com. So.
Yeah.
To the original question of the making them aware of their hosting and how they can get support, I just put it real prominently in what was offered in my care package. Was just hey, there's this other support you can get directly from the host. This is the host. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much it'll stick, and I'm sure there'll have to be re-education about it and stuff, but I use Flywheel, so I just add them as a collaborator.
Yeah, that's what I do. I find that most of them don't go, I invite them as a collaborator and I have to nag them to go actually accept the,
Yeah.
and actually log in.
Oh, man.
I owned one of my clients' domains for quite a while at the site until I finally got him to log in. I was like, you really need to take ownership of this. I mean, this is a client that gave me their credit card number and expiration date and everything else, and we put it in so that, I keep going, they trust me. I'm just like, you need to own this, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have an hour left. Do we have anything else? Any other ideas or questions or comments about offboarding clients?
Does anyone use Google Maps? No.
Yeah, sort of.
Get around.
In
Because I
what way?
I have a number of sites that are pretty heavily they rely on a mapping tool, and they're all using Google Maps, and I go in there with my account and set up the API, and then I had one site that started getting a ton of traffic, and so they started accruing fees.
Oh no.
And so then I had to go back and try to separate it all out. But I still haven't taken the time to figure out how to add, so I was just billing them, but how to add them as a billing source on my, I think you can do it, but I just got so confused every time I tried to do it that
yeah. I generally, because when I work for the with Mantango, I don't set up their Google Maps. I ask for their Google account or have them do it, and I give them a link to the Google documentation on how to set up Google Maps API.
Yeah.
Or I say, I can do it for you. I just need the credentials. Usually if they're like, oh, I don't want to give you my Gmail account, and then I send them the link to how to do it, they're like, oh, here you go. But I set it up for them.
Yeah.
And then let them know that they need to go in and possibly add the billing. I say most of the time you won't need it. You won't be charged. But you may, if your traffic goes up, you will.
Yeah.
And I tell them that's why we don't set it up under our account, because there's money involved.
Yeah.
And we don't have a way through Mantango anyways to bill them for that particular expense. But yeah. I just ever since they changed their API, I just made that a rule. It's anytime it's going to be something that I don't have a contracted fee for, because I don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't even deal with it. I just say, you're going to have to do it. I'll set it up, but I'll need credentials, and I do it under their account. You could also set up an account for them. So their domain at gmail.com, and create a new Gmail account or a new Google account and tie it to that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Do y'all put any WordPress specific language in your contracts? I guess I've just been hearing these cases of and I feel like my clients are this way too. They don't really understand how WordPress works. And so to them, it's just kind of like, oh, you're creating me a website. And, you know, we talk about it, but I don't think it really sinks in that like we're building it on WordPress and there's plugins and there's like, do you put anything in there to protect against like if a plugin just stops being supported or something, and then all of a sudden their site breaks and it doesn't come back to you to solve it, or you know, or that they have some expectation that you're going to do it for free? Or do you like mention like WordPress as a service as like part of the contract in the beginning and kind of explain a little bit about like, I didn't build WordPress, this is a tool that we're using? Or
I have a little blurb that I add to like our site, like our proposals, that like in the context of this is why you need a maintenance plan, is because like plugins will break and it's open source and the code's always changing. And, you know, I have just a little statement about that. And we talk about that in like our first meeting. But that's kind of how I sell maintenance, is by saying they all need some help at some point.
Yeah, my contract kind of covers, or I just have some sort of, if anything happens to your website, it's got none like act of God clause that mentions that WordPress is by open source and plugins are by third parties, and you know, all I'm giving you is a design, you know, and they own it and everything, but like I make no warranties about anything at all. Like, and I will tell you, I've in my 18 years, I think I've had 5 people just say, I won't sign your contract unless you change something, which I never do. So they're not my clients, you know. Nathan Ingram has he just started a contract called Monster Contracts, specifically for WordPress web designers. And it's 9 pages too. It's pretty hefty. I got to look at it. I don't utilize it because my own contract was fine, but I know him and I was able to see it just to take a look for feedback, and I think it's great. So you pay a one-time $200 fee and then like a yearly annual fee of $39 or $49, I forget, but he will maintain it. It's been reviewed by an attorney. If I didn't already have a contract that I've had for 18 years, I would be using it.
oh wow, awesome. Do you guys also include like a budget for plugins? I had this experience yesterday at another meetup. I was helping a guy who he wanted a form that would send the results of the form to an API. And so I was just curious about it. So I started looking into it, and I found like, I was like, oh, like we can do gravity forms with webhooks, and it's like all paid plugins, but it'll do it pretty good. And then I spent like the majority of my time trying to figure out like a free way to do it. And I don't know, I just kind of had this realization, because then when I told him about it, he was like, oh yeah, I'll pay for that. And then he just did it. And I was like, oh man, I spend so much time trying to find like free solutions to paid problems. And I think I sometimes transfer that onto my clients too, when maybe they would just rather just pay, you know, $100 for a year for some plugin. But I feel like what's preventing me from doing that is I feel sheepish to like, after you know, come to them and be like, hey, like actually there's this plugin that we're going to need that's like $100. So do you guys like somehow keep it's just like an estimate at the front that's like able to, or do you talk about the plugins and the possibility for paid plugins up front, or even put out a budget or something?
I put in my contract that says that third-party software and images are not included. Like if they need to buy stock photos or if they need to purchase a plugin, it is not included in the original scope. And I also say that the scope is an estimate and it's subject to change if scope changes, kind of thing. Usually if that happens, if the scope changes a great deal, then they do a second contract for that additional work. but plugins are never included unless I know about them ahead of time, and it's something like it's in my arsenal. Like if it's the theme, if they're using Divi or a custom theme, if they're going to, I try not to use Gravity Forms if I can possibly not put a form plugin. I don't, simply because most of the time that form they want sent to somebody, some other program like Salesforce or something, and I can just get the code from Salesforce and put it in the website, and they don't have more stuff on their website. But yeah, I would always make sure that you point out that those kind of things, solutions that acquire advanced plugins or paid plugins aren't part of the fee that they're paying you. Because usually they have like a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription attached to them.
Yeah.
And that's an ongoing thing that you're not going to be billing for them forever.
So
I kind of have a weird way of doing this. So I mentioned in my estimates that they may need a premium plugin that I'm not going to pay for. But I build everything with premium plugins and just let them use them. Okay. I mentioned that in my proposal. I'm using Beaver Builder. I'm grandfathered in at Gravity Forms. I've got like the full thing for $100 a year for unlimited websites. I think, I mean, it's hundreds, I'm sure at this point, but basically I say, as long as you're my client, you can use these. And if you move to somebody else, you can still use them. But if you ever ask for the licensing fee, I'll never share that with you. And at that point, you need to get your own licensing. So in my packet that I give them, the owner's manual, I list all the premium plugins that they're getting to use via my licensing. And all of these things hide the licensing now, right? Like they can't just copy it and use it somewhere else. So I give them the list and I list to the pricing. So they know what their price, what they'll have to do in the long run. But I don't do random, all my clients come from referrals. So I'm really comfortable with that. If I have somebody that comes to me that I don't know, that doesn't know somebody I know, I'm going to feel differently about that. But I rarely have any business in that fashion because I do the networking thing. So I don't know if it's the smartest thing to do, but it would really add up for them to, I'm paying for agency level everything, so I can do that.
It probably keeps them really sticky to you if they have to give up all those nice things if they're going to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be, it's a perk, right? I'm not trying to make them stay with me forever. But, occasionally, most of the people that leave me move on to use a different platform, right? So they're not using it anyway. But, with Gravity Forms, if that's one that you have them buy on their own and they just buy the cheapest version, they're not going to be able to do all the things that they really like, SendGrid add-on and all the add-ons that I use on a regular basis that, they're going to have to pay more for it yearly than I do because I've been doing it for 10 years or whatever. So, but I make sure that I let them know that from the get-go. Right? In my proposal, I have a little thing that talks about, I use these premium plugins that you get to use on my licensing as long as you're my client. So, and let's say somebody moved on and they had a problem. I would offer to I'll go in and reset it for you, just to be kind, right? But I would just never give them the licensing code.
Okay.
Cami,
Yes?
how do you define when they're still your customer? Is that when they are still on a maintenance contract, or?
No, as long as they still have the website I built that's up. If I haven't heard from them in 5 years, they're still my client.
Okay.
They just don't need me. They're not my client when they say, hey, I have a new web designer. Then they're not my client. Or if they do, you know, like yesterday I was thinking about a client I hadn't heard from in a really long time. And I don't know why. I just was like, oh, I'll check on their website. And they redesigned their website sometime in the last 6 months. I checked it out on the Wayback Machine. That's not a client anymore because they're in a website that I didn't build. So, you know, so that happens every now and then too. But I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. They're at a brand new website. So not even the same platform.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Clay?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I keep running into situations and where like I spend a lot of time trying to do custom code for a particular problem, and I tell myself like, oh, because it's like they don't need the whole premium plugin, they just need this piece of it. But then I was just like, oh man, is everyone else just buying these premium plugins and not thinking twice about it? And like, is that just a time sink that and then I also wonder about maintainability and just like, am I setting them up for like, you know, needing a developer to deal with their site in the future,
Yeah.
which could be me and it might be good, but
sometimes you are making them depend on the developer depending on what it is that you're doing for them. But I kind of feel like based on the budget of the project is how you make your solutions. So if they're paying for a custom built design, custom build features into it, if you can. But for instance, you're never going to build in SEO. You're going to get used. You're not going, I don't see the reason to build custom forms when you can use either a third-party embed code or a plugin for it, if that makes sense. I don't see the point in like having a custom, like a plugin that makes custom post types. That's something that you would code. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You know, I would think of it this way. You are going down the rabbit hole with each different client, trying to find a free way for them to do stuff, right? When if there's a reasonably priced solution, this is how I got into just doing the agency version so I can give them the answer, right? And then, but you're giving them an answer that they could take over by themselves if they wanted to, right? So it's not like, anyway, it's just kind of, I used to do that too, and just decided to start investing in having the answer for them in a way that they could get it themselves if they wanted to. So if they're not comfortable having me have the licensing, they're welcome to get their own, you know. But it's, everybody has like these slightly different needs. So you can just spend hours being their research department, right? And that's not good. You know, you want to streamline. So if Gravity Forms is Gravity Forms is the one I use. I don't use Ninja Forms, the Formidable Forms. I've tested all those ones and decided Gravity was the easiest one for me to use. And now, just like pay me with PayPal, I say, buy Gravity Forms, here you go. And that keeps me in control of my time better.
thank you, that was really helpful.
I do. I think I have some, you know, pretty custom, like a couple sites that have some like very custom development done on it, and I still struggle with that, Clay, around, do I go get a plugin or do I build this myself? Because you can go get a plugin and then you still need to customize on top of that, and there are like it just really depends on how much coverage the plugin gets you, and but like there's sometimes you don't know until you install like you purchase it and install it. By that time you've already sunk the cost into it, so then it's like, oh god, okay. But yeah, I totally struggle with that because I also am a developer, so I like to develop, and so sometimes I just have to, you know, reel myself in and say somebody else can handle this for me. Like we can live with these few awkward things that the plugin does that we maybe don't want it to, but in the long run, I think the one thing I'm looking at is maintenance, because like if you are, you have to think about how your code is going to be maintained over time. And with a plugin, with a paid plugin, you get that maintenance built in, as long as the plugin remains supported. Yeah.
Just real quick, I heard you mention, is it kind of just like standard that when you're doing a custom post type that do the custom post type like as custom code, and then for ACF stuff use the plugin? Or like you kind of said like you should probably custom code that rather than pull in the whole
Well, I use ACF, but you can use that with just regular post types. I do create, like for this construction company, I created a post type for their job description, so their careers, but I use the built-in projects inside of Devi for their proposals. So like I use part of the existing architecture, but I needed more custom post types for them. I could have used blog posts, but then that would have made them have to make sure that they're selecting certain categories every time. Otherwise, their job description is going to show up on their blog page. And so to make it simpler for them to maintain, I created the custom post type.
And you did that with custom code rather than like a custom post type plugin?
Yes. Though you can, if you're short on time or have a small budget and you don't want to spend the time actually writing out the custom post type, you can use the custom post type UI plugin, but then copy the code and put it into the thing and get rid of the plugin. Because you don't have to maintain the plugin. It'll create the code for you. Basically, there's a PHP generator too.
Yeah, there's
totally off topic. But I love this generator. It's super cool. It's generate WP. I'll put it in there. But you can basically generate different codes for your you can do post type, meta types, post status generator, term meta, short codes, hooks, WP config, all sorts of stuff. But you can generate the code using something, but then this is not a plugin, this is just a website that you put in the parameters and it writes out the code for you. So if you are short on time but you need it to be actually coded, you could use something like that, or the custom post type UI plugin, but then remove the plugin after you get the code.
Okay. Yeah, that custom post type UI plugin, like just to make one new post type feels like a lot. So I was wondering if that was kind of a normal pattern to custom code the custom post type, but then you use ACF on top of that to get custom code. Yeah.
That's what I do. And then you'll have to build a custom template to actually display. Divi, I don't know if Beaver Builder does, but Divi will allow you to use dynamic code, so you can actually pull the data from the custom post type into the Divi builder. Just super cool.
That's cool.
I use Elementor, it does that too.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. But it's a better solution, I think, than using posts or a plugin to generate certain things.
Anybody else have any other burning questions, topics?
Do you all include payment terms as part of the contract, or do you have like a separate, do you like does your contract just say like the payment terms are laid out in like a separate document? I remember we talked about this a lot at that kind of contract and scope meeting, but I couldn't remember where we landed on that.
I personally put it in the contract or in the proposal for them. And then my proposals are tied to the contract, which are tied to an invoice. And the invoice, depending on the project, will be split up. It's a full project. It's split up into usually 4 equal payments. And they're based on milestones. So they have an initial payment that signs a contract that gets the project launched. After the content phase, they sign off on that, and then they pay again the second one. And then after the design phase, they pay another one after they sign off. And then before I launch, after approval of the final product and I launch it, or before I launch it, they pay again. And then we launch, and then we do our training.
Okay.
Yeah. But I spell it out in the proposal themselves. They understand when they're going to be paying and with, you know, how much each payment is based on what they choose in their proposal.
I roll out every 30 days to have to pay me, and that makes them meet their deadlines. And then by the end, if they don't have their content together or something, I will pause it. But normally that's on the final payment. Then I pause that and I hold that one until we're totally done. But it has been a life-changing change to do it that way, because sometimes I just finished a project that almost started 2 years ago. Right? Like just disappeared, and then the whole COVID thing made the client reappear. And I was like, oh God, yes, I'm going to get to invoice this because it started before I implemented this new payment plan.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, stuff happens and people just can ghost you, and then you've only taken a deposit. Right? So it really has kept projects on time. And even if, you know, like I just had one that went 6 weeks over what we expected, and I just held the last payment, but I had 4 payments. So the 5th payment was all that was missing. And no one has complained. Everyone seems to like it, and it's motivating for them. Like, hey, you realize you're going to make me a payment on Tuesday. How about you send me that stuff? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And in my case, it's like, oh my God, they have a payment coming up. I need to finish this, and I will send it to them today. So when their payment goes through, they feel like I'm putting a dent in it. So it's really been a good change for me.
Yeah, I really like that you at your GoDaddy presentation, you talked about that, and I'm planning to try to implement it now, because same thing like with COVID, is like I was doing the half up front, half at the end thing, and I had 2 clients that just went off the face of the earth for like 2 months, and it started hurting, and I was like, oh man, like I expected to be done with this project by now, but you know, for whatever reason they're applying for PPP loans or whatever, you know, and then they eventually came back. But I love this idea because I think it just protects against it so well.
Yeah, thank you so much for going to that. I'm so glad it's over. It was nerve-wracking for me, but it was good to get out of my comfort zone. So I actually submitted it to my first WordCamp to do. So virtually, because I'm terrified of anything else, but the public speaking thing is not something that I would say I enjoy, but I'm glad I did it.
Well, it was really good, really useful, and you seemed super prepared. And
thank you.
Great.
I won't tell you how many hours I spent practicing.
Good. Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, on cash flow issues, in my previous life, I made books, coffee table books, cookbooks, things like that. And some of those projects were quite large. And some of them would go on for years. 2 years, 3 years, you never knew. Especially if you were dealing with a museum or something where profit wasn't why they were making the book, it was just part of their mission. So we always had, a definite payment schedule in the contract before we ever started working on it. So we always had a little bit of money up front, and then we would, do billing as we went along. I like your 30-day plan. I think that's a great plan, Cami. That makes a lot of sense. So.
It comes from getting burned too many times.
Indeed, yes.
Right? And really the person who or the client that actually made me make that change, I'm so grateful for, but yeah, I wanted a full refund after not providing anything but a logo to build their website with, and said, well, you said it would be done in 10 weeks and it's 10 weeks. And I'm like, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this logo. I mean, I could put up a page with a logo. And I really sat down and said, what could I do to prevent this from happening? And it's really worked. It engages the client, on a regular basis. And I even do it like I just offered the person who was gone to pay me payments over time for their balanced right now, because, everybody's hurting. And it's like, sure, here's what it is. You want to make 10 payments? I don't care. Let's just set it up, and then I'll put an entry on my calendar, and I'm going to get that money in a month. It's spread out. I understand that's not, but when I know it's coming, it's so much better than not knowing. That I'm willing to make it a smaller payment for them for convenience for them. So we'll see where this morphs. But I've been trying to be accommodating to people with large payments due now, just to spread it out, because I know everybody like myself is experiencing a downturn.
It's probably really valuable for them, the predictability of their payments too, just like to know that they're not going to be kind of having just not knowing when that big lump sum is going to come due.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I really do. And the fees that you pay are nominal. I mean, it's just so worth it to sit here and go like, you got money. Yes. I'll pay a little fee for that. Versus going to my mailbox every week going, where's that check? I'm desperate for that check.
So I set the link for WordCamp Europe, the tickets, in the chat if anybody wants to. I guess today is the last day to get tickets, so if you want to register, they are free.
Cool.
Yeah, so the one that I watched the other day, it was a little strange because I thought it would be like this, where there'd be people, but we'd all be force muted. And then some moderator will unmute you if you have a comment. But it was more like a webinar where you could only chat, which I found kind of interesting. A little less engaging than I expected from WordCamp, but especially a small one like WordCamp Kent. But
do you know if the WordCamp Kent stuff, do they put that up somewhere?
Yeah, it's probably, well, I don't know. I say it's probably already up there. But I would go to their website and see if it's still embedded in their pages, because they were recording as they went. But all WordCamps should be up on WordCamp TV or WordPress.tv.
Okay.
Usually not right away, but it's there.
I tried to get a couple, but all I caught was the yoga lunch.
All I caught was the yoga lunch. Yeah. I caught a few of them, and one was really cool, and then he had technical difficulties and it went away.
Oh.
And this was so good. It was about the initial consultation meeting, like what you need to cover during that particular session before you write your proposal. It was really, really good. I don't remember who the speaker was, though. Was it? It may have been Nathan Ingram.
I think it was. I mean, I didn't go, but I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it was Nathan. Come to think of it. He's from
Yeah.
Atlanta, Georgia, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was him. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I kind of like this, but I mean, it kind of sucks that we can't have WordCamps in person, but it's kind of cool that we can do from not just our regional one, but without having to travel, going to like I was never going to go to Kent, Ohio for work. So it was interesting. Different speakers and stuff like that. So yeah, so we're as far as Seattle WordCamp, we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do it for 2021 because we're not doing 2020 because we wanted to move it to spring of next year. And so we're trying to figure out if we're going to do it virtually or if it's going to go back to in person and what that looks like as far as the amount of people we can have. And it's kind of up in the air right now, but kind of keep that in mind if you want to help out with WordCamp. If it's going to be online, it's going to be a lot less work per person, which is cool. But we still need some people to help out.
What's the date or deadline for the decision for in-person versus virtual?
We are trying to figure out what WordCamp is supporting. So right now, WordCamp Central is supporting online ones through 2020.
Okay.
But they haven't made a decision on 2021 yet. So until they make their decision, we really can't say, yes, we're doing it virtually because that's not how WordCamps work.
Yeah, I bet they'll call it like in October, don't you think?
Yeah,
Like,
which will be great if it's going to be online, but it will suck if it's going to be in person because trying to put together WordCamp in 6 months is really difficult because we'd like to do it in May, like between Mother's Day and Memorial Day would be our ideal window of time to do it. But you know, it's kind of up in the air right now. I'm hoping we'll figure it out soon. But just keep that in mind.
In terms of this meetup, we in the past have taken July off because it usually falls around July 4th and people go do things.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. We weren't sure whether we would have one in July or not. I guess if you guys have an opinion on that. In August, we will be having a guest speaker. Annie LaCour, she spoke at WordCamp last year.
cool.
And she talks on like time management and productivity.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I would skip July just because people, even though they're at home, they're still going to have that vacation mode.
That's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to make sure that people were.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
That sounds good to me. If we do it, I'm here, but
Yeah. I kind of think that even with this, we had 12 people RSVP and there's only 5 of us here. So
The
it's
mighty five, a
it's
very
still
mighty
due.
five.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking we'll skip July, and then August we have Annie in time management and productivity for our topic.
I'm excited about that. I just put it on my calendar. And
Cool.
I love that I can come to this meeting online, because when you guys go back to real meetings, I'll never be able to come
I
because of
know.
the West Seattle Bridge.
I don't know. I'm liking having them online. I think I don't know. So I don't know
Yeah.
what we'll do in the future, but I think the same for the developer meetup, which is usually typically after work. So, and it's just hard to pick a location that everybody can get to easily. So,
Yeah, didn't you have one of your last meetups at the West Seattle Library?
yeah.
And I, what's funny is I just skipped, I'm more of a designer than developer. So when I get that meetup thing, I just kind of like, oh, they're having their meeting and blah, blah. But I go to the library on Wednesdays, or I was with a friend, and we would work on our businesses without talking. This is our accountability thing. And we're walking out, and I ran into people. Anyway, it was funny. I'm like,
Yeah.
You had a meeting here?
Yeah, no, that's cool. I know right before it hit, we were going to start a roving meetup that went to different neighborhoods to try to get some more people in and see where the need is for regular monthly meetings. And it was like, okay, guess not. Who knows? So we have about 20 more minutes. Does anybody have anything they want to share, talk about in the last 20 minutes?
I don't think so.
So do we want to end a little early?
Sure. Hey, one thing I want to say to Clay is I'm going to throw my email address in here. And if you want to set up a time to talk about setting up your payment plan thing, I'd be happy to, we could have a Zoom chat or something, and I could walk you through kind of how I rolled it out to the clients and stuff.
Oh, awesome. I really appreciate that.
Okay.
Hey, Tammy, can I email you about BNI?
Yeah, I love BNI. I had my meeting this morning.
Yeah, my
And
wife.
it's one of the ones that I'm kind of sad that we might go back to normal too. Because it's a lot easier to roll out of bed at 7 and get in front of my computer than it is to get in the car.
That is very true, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I've been doing it for 10 years. So.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Great.
Okay.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Yes.
It was really good to see you
Thank you.
all.
Yeah, thanks.
And stomping. Good to see all of you as well.
And